Hello, everybody. My name is Madeline Cruz, and my research paper was about Emmett Till's case. My presentation is called Emmett Till's Case: Fighting to End Racism. So for those of you who may not know Emmett Till or his case, essentially, I'll provide some context before I get started on the section that I want to talk about the most. So this young boy right here that I'm zooming in on is Emmett Till. He's a 14-year-old boy, and this is Mamie Till, who is Emmett's mom. So I'm going to kind of talk about this case really quick. I'm going to kind of just provide some context as to who these people obviously are. So Emmett Till was a 14-year-old black boy who was brutally murdered by two white men on August 18th, 1955. Emmett was beaten, shot, and tortured to death so horrifically that even his face was disfigured. After being tortured to death, his killers, Roy Bryant and J.W. Millam, tied barbed wire around his neck while he was also attached to a ceiling fan, and they dumped him in the Tallahatchie River in Mississippi. How devastating it must have been for Emmett Till's family to see him disfigured and beaten so horrifically. They must have wondered how a young boy such as Emmett got himself into such a sickening position. Only through the most destructive form of racism was this possible. So, his story obviously does not end here. Just for some more background information, Roy and JW are I forget who's which, but there's a woman named Caroline Bryant, yeah, Caroline Bryant Donham, who accused Emmett of catcalling her. And so she had told her husband and her brother, Roy and JW, that he did this. And in return, these two men decided to obviously murder this little boy so horrifically. Um, and it all actually turned out to be a lie. So Caroline came out in 2017 and said, hey guys, by the way, Emmett never did this. I lied about it. So, it's just so horrific to me. The justice, I can't talk. The justice was never served. It should have been for especially those two men. This is a case that I have known about for a very long time, a very long period in my life, that really hurts me deep because I can imagine being Mamie Till in this situation and seeing your son. I mean, her son was so horribly disfigured afterwards, and she had made some very powerful movements that I'm going to talk about here. So there's a warning right here for a reason. I'm gonna scroll down to a photo that is very, very horrific. If you have a sick stomach or you don't like seeing sensitive things, I would advise you to kind of just put your head down or maybe just like kind of don't leave the classroom. The teacher can pause the presentation if needed, obviously, for these arrangements. But I'm gonna scroll down to the photo. And this is a photo that I want to talk about because to me it's so powerful. I mean, oh, okay. So this is obviously Mamie Till, and she is looking down at her son. The reason why I put a warning is because and if I do a bad job pointing this out, the teacher obviously can point this out to you. But this young gentleman here at the bottom is Emmett, and it's so hard to really tell because of how disfigured he looks. And you could just see how unsettling this man here holding Mammy just looks. I mean, this is a very horrific situation that needs attention. You know what I mean? So let's talk about this really quick. So the first interesting thing that society had picked up on within this case is the fact that Mammy wanted her son's casket open. This was unusual because her son's face was so horribly disfigured, people could get nauseous just looking at how sickening he looked. Knowing that this was his face after the beating slash murder is absolutely horrific. You would think that Mammy would never want to see his body again, knowing how disfigured he was. She didn't let his figure after his murder stop her from seeing him. She even preferred the casket to be open, and she demanded it. So there's so many articles and so many videos of Mammy talking about why she wanted her casket open. She wanted to make a movement. She wanted to let people know that this is what the world did to her son, you know? And so she wanted the world to realize it and to never, ever allow this to happen again, which is so brave and powerful of her. but it is very sad that she had to go through this just to obviously make this movement. Um, so fighting to make sure the world sees what her did to her son, obviously. It wasn't fair for only her to see him. Mammy permitted photos to be taken as well, and there are a lot of videos and pictures of the service, the funeral service, um, over the internet. There were over 50,000 people at this memorial. Most of the folks were black and wanted to stand up and make a movement out of this horrific matter. This was a very this was a very popular movement, I feel. I don't even want to say popular because that makes it sound so bad. But this was a very powerful, let's say powerful movement back then. Many people during the funeral had fainted and wept. The people were scared and they felt so under attacked racially. They were so horrified by Emmett's turnout that they thought that maybe they'd be next. Mamie had noted that there were many men who spoke up about the issue who had never spoken before. And so I just think that that's so um it's so crazy to think that, there's a world of people, there's a world of, you know, just sorry, I'm losing my words. There's just this whole world that is very hurt by this turnout and wants to see change and demands it. And I think that Mamie is such a powerful human for making sure that photos were taken, for making sure that the world saw, because obviously it probably hurts to have so many people at your son's funeral. You might want that to be private or just for the family. But she realized that this could be happening everywhere, honestly. This could be happening at places she didn't want something like this to ever happen again. And I think that is so powerful of her. Um, and if anybody has different views, or if anybody sees things differently than I do, throughout me presenting, feel free to share with the teacher and feel free to email me as well. I don't want to get any information wrong. This is a case that I hold very close to my heart because when I first saw this photo, I actually cried because of how moved I was. I mean, it is just so sad, and it brings so much anger within me to even look at this photo. Like, why did this have to happen? This did not need to happen. Um, and yeah, so obviously the Black community was very petrified of this. A movement had came out of it. Emmett's open casket was a huge movement and really had the world thinking about how wrong the case was, and people were willing to help and stand up for the justice. I keep saying it wrong. The justice that should have been served. So this case went on forever, and for those of you who may not know, there is an Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that was passed on March 7th, 2022, which is awesome. I think that that is great. I love that they used Emmett Till's name in this, knowing what he had gone through, and so I'm so thankful that they pushed that act into law. I'm gonna scroll down actually to that really quick. Where did I put it? See, right here. So right here it says recently the Emmett Till Lynching Act was passed on March 7th, 2022. By passing this act into law, we are bringing more awareness to the awful act that lynching does. So on and so on. So yeah, I'm gonna scroll back to that photo now. Actually, I'm just gonna scroll back to the top, so we don't have to look at that photo. Okay. So yeah, I kind of want to talk about, sorry, that photo. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Um, I kind of talked more about the funeral, which I think is so important to have talked about. Um, I feel like the funeral was kind of like the third step within like that movement because Mammy had first went to the NAACP, which is the National Association of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and that was it's essentially a news station, the first news station that Mamie had went to, and then more news stations had brought obviously awareness, so on and so on. So I know that stations obviously like different news stations took pics and stuff at the funeral, took videos. Mamie had spoken out at the funeral. Yeah, there was just so so much hurt, so much publicity that came out of this, and there are still so many amazing things happening with this case still today, since there was no justice served. So yeah, this was just a section that I want to talk about. I could talk about like my whole paper, but I would just want to talk about that section really quick. If you